The nail in the coffin, the way that I always know that without a doubt that I am pregnant even before I take the test is Hello everyone! Thank you so much for joining us. I know that we have been gone from YouTube for a little over a month. I think it's something like 40 days. And that was unintentional. I ran into some technical issues, which took me a couple of weeks to resolve. And then I started getting really sick and we had company. And of course, as you can see by the title of this video, the reason that I got so sick was because I'm pregnant. She's not happy about it. Look at that. Doesn't get any more clear than that, does it? And that one is even more clear. So, as you might have guessed, this was pretty You think that's funny? So, as you might have guessed, this was pretty unexpected for us. I estimate that I ovulated and got pregnant when this wee one was about 4.5 months old. Because clearly, yeah, I'm 9 weeks pregnant now. And I have an infant. She's 7 months old. I had her like 5 minutes ago. Chad and I were in absolute shock. You guys know I film everything. And I normally film reactions to things like this and the taking of the pregnancy test. But I knew that I had symptoms of pregnancy, but I was like, there's just no way. There's no way that I'm pregnant. I have an infant. We've been mostly careful. And I took a test and I was. So let's talk a little bit about how I knew I was pregnant and my first symptoms. So my very first symptom was actually insomnia. This has been consistent with all 3 of my babies so far. The very first symptom I get of pregnancy is insomnia. And at that point, I don't know I'm pregnant. I know something is up, but usually I think that it's because I'm about to get my menstrual cycle, which that does happen right before I get my menstrual cycle. I'll have insomnia for a couple of days and then get my menstrual cycle, and all of that sorts itself out. Of course, I never got my menstrual cycle. So I was like, something is definitely up. And then the second symptom, again, something that has happened with all of my pregnancies, is I would get shortness of breath. So of course, right now, any symptom that includes shortness of breath is pretty distressing for the majority of people because of what's going on in the world. But I didn't have any other symptoms that would point to COVID. So when I started combining the insomnia with the shortness of breath, I knew something was probably up. The third symptom is weight would just cling on to me. No matter what I did, I couldn't lose weight. All my normal methods of losing my postpartum weight or my baby weight, they weren't working. Normally breastfeeding is a really good way for me to lose weight, and I was losing weight steadily, and then I just stopped, and then I started gaining weight, and I'm like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. If anything, I'm eating less and I'm really being careful. And so that was another symptom of pregnancy. Now the fourth symptom was it became really, really difficult for me to get up in the morning. I'm not a morning person anyway, but I can usually fight with myself and force myself to at least get up, get a cup of coffee, and lay around with the girls while they play, or maybe watch a little bit of TV while I'm waking up, and then we go do something fun. But when I say I could not get up, I mean, Chad would try to make sure that I was up before he would leave for work, because I would just sleep through anything. And that is not me. If one of my kids were crying or needed me or something like that, that would wake me up. That would wake me up because I'm a pretty light sleeper. But normally I would wake up pretty early in the mornings anyway, and you know, I would try to get up with my kids, and that was not happening. I mean, I could have slept till 2 p.m. And sometimes if I had the help with my kids, I did. I thought, you know, maybe I'm getting sick, maybe I'm coming down with something, and so that's why I'm sleeping so much. But no, I was pregnant. Now, the 5th symptom, the thing that really gave it away, was coffee started to taste different. And as soon as I got that symptom, I'm like, oh crap, I know what this is. This has happened with every single pregnancy, actually all of these symptoms, and pretty much in that order as well. The nail in the coffin, the way that I always know that without a doubt that I am pregnant even before I take the test, is all these symptoms combined. But that last little thing is that when coffee starts tasting weird, moreover, I don't like the way that coffee tastes, I'm pregnant. And so I started it wasn't that I had disgust or that, you know, I was puking up coffee or anything like that. I'm normally crazy about coffee. I love my coffee. I mean, I have 2 young kids, so of course I love coffee. It's my lifeline. But I just was like, I found myself never finishing my cup of coffee. And I normally have 2 cups of coffee in the morning. And I wouldn't even finish even half of it. Maybe not even a quarter of it. I would take a couple sips and just like, I don't like this, you know? And so that's how I knew without a doubt. I'm like, I'm pregnant. Before I even took the test, there was no doubt. And as you guys can see, I mean, it doesn't get much clearer. This was not even my first morning urine, which is what you're supposed to use because that's the most potent. No, this was not my first morning pee. This was like last pee of the day, and it came back just blazing. So I told Chad, we were both shocked. I thought it would be really fun to document this because this will definitely be our last baby. Being pregnant is really hard, you guys. We went to our appointment and now I'm 9 weeks along. So I'll be having my blood test done next week to make sure all of my levels are good. And the pregnancy sickness hit me like clockwork at about 5 weeks. I was miserable for a good 3 weeks, and this week it has significantly decreased. So one thing I've noticed is that my pregnancy sickness has gotten less and less severe with every baby that I've had. So with Tennyson, my first little girl, a lot of you guys know that I had just severe sickness. I actually had hyperemesis, which is where you lose a ton of weight, you're severely dehydrated. I was hospitalized 3 times with my first baby because I couldn't even hold down water or ice chips. It was really, really a hard pregnancy. And I puked from the time I was about 6 and 7 weeks pregnant with her up until like just a few minutes before I had her. I never stopped puking. The pregnancy sickness never went away. I was puking like 10 and 11 times a day. It was awful. Okay, I had to disappear for a second to get a bottle for Adelaide. So, where was I? Oh, yes. So, with Tennyson, my pregnancy sickness was really severe the whole time. And with Adelaide, I had pretty severe pregnancy sickness up until about 20 weeks, so the halfway point. And then I still had some sickness after that, but it dissipated. And it was very tolerable, very manageable. With this baby, I will be shocked if the pregnancy sickness is over. I mean, I have a little bit when I go too long without eating, and I do get really nauseous, but it's nothing like I had before. Now, between weeks 5 and 8, it was awful. It felt like a really bad hangover that I couldn't shake. You know, my head was just throbbing all the time. I was severely nauseous. I was puking endlessly. I couldn't hold anything down. Nothing tasted good. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, you know, oh, when you don't feel well, you can just lay down and take it easy. And yeah, you can sometimes do that, but not if you have 2 young kids. And furthermore, even if you are laying down and taking it easy and trying to chill out with Netflix, it's not just that food tastes good, food doesn't taste good, and that you feel really lousy. You know, when you feel that awful, you can't find a show that you really care about watching. You can't find a movie you care about watching. You don't really want to be around other people. I mean, it's just a miserable, miserable time. A pregnancy sickness, for those who have it, it's like one of the hardest things I have come into contact with so far. And so if this is your first baby and you're using this video as a resource and you want more afterward, but you're wondering whether or not you can do it because your pregnancy sickness is so severe, you know, you could have a story like mine where the first one is the worst, and then the second one's a little better, and then by the third, hopefully, you know, the pregnancy sickness is not nearly as severe. I will say one thing that makes a huge difference with pregnancy sickness is a lot of people say eating regularly. I haven't really noticed a big difference with that. And honestly, when I'm puking all day, I don't want to eat regularly. I mean, I don't want to puke up all this food. So I do eat less in the first trimester, but I make sure I take my vitamins and I drink juice and, you know, ices and whatever I can keep down. Applesauce. Applesauce does not taste so bad when you throw it up, and it basically looks the same, so that's a good one. But the defining factor for me really is getting enough sleep and getting really, really good sleep. My pregnancy sickness is 10 times worse, not exaggerating, literally 10 times worse whenever I haven't gotten any sleep the night before. You know, obviously I have a 2.5-year-old and I have a 7-month-old, and so good sleep is not always easy to come by, is it? Adelaide is still waking up to nurse a couple of times during the night, and you know, according to every pediatrician out there, if they're waking up to nurse during the night, you need to let them do that up until the point that they're a year old. So a lot of times I don't get really good sleep, and I pay the consequences when I don't. So if you are struggling with pregnancy sickness, one thing you can try, especially if it's your first baby and you don't have any other little kids yet, try to get really, really good sleep. You might see a huge difference in your more severe symptoms if you get a good night's sleep. So some plans we have for this pregnancy, since it's gonna be our last baby for sure, this old lady's getting tired. My body doesn't typically tolerate pregnancy very well, in the sense of, you know, being sick a lot. I'm not one of those people that has joyous pregnancies. I've been blessed that I've had healthy pregnancies, but I'm usually anemic, and so I'm very tired. I have problems with insomnia, and of course, like, no food tastes good when I'm pregnant. So I don't mind giving it up after this one. Really, I'm done and I'm gonna be cool with it. But some plans we do have is that since it is our last baby, I thought it would be really cool if we didn't find out the gender. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to swing that or not, because I've already presented that idea to Chad, and he said without a doubt that he wants to know. So we'll see. Obviously, if we have a girl, we won't need to prepare at all. We have all the girl stuff we could ever need since we have 2 little girls. If we had a little boy, that would be exciting too. You know, being able to have babies of both genders. But honestly, you guys, whether it's boy or girl, I don't care. I love being a girl mom. So I will not mind if it's another little girl. I just want the baby to be healthy. But of course, that will be very cool if it's a little boy. we will have to go out and buy stuff because we have no boy stuff in the house, but we'll see. Hopefully Chad will go along with my plans. I think it would just be so cool to wait and see for our last baby what the gender is whenever he or she is born. I think that would be awesome, but you know, I'm gonna have to convince Mr. Wilson. Aside from that, we do plan on changing our OBGYN practice. We love our OBGYN practice that we are currently at. We love the practitioners there, but a lot of you probably saw the birth log that I had. The hospital that they are contracted with is pretty outdated, and there are not a lot of resources at that hospital for women who are wanting to do, you know, a natural childbirth. They only have one low intervention room, and if you watched Adelai's birth vlog, so I was able to get the low intervention room with my first daughter, and it was great because it had a tub, and I was able to have my doula. But with Adelai's birth, the hospital wasn't allowing doulas because of the pandemic. And then the one low intervention room that they had was being used by someone who was not in labor. That still gets under my skin. And so I, in order to have a room that had some peace and quiet, I had to get a room with a shower. And I couldn't even let the shower head hit my stomach because they had monitors on me the whole time. I had to be monitored the whole time. It was not the low intervention birth that I wanted. A doctor was on call instead of a midwife, and she was not really accustomed, I think, to doing low intervention births. She is a very, very nice doctor, but I just want things done in a simpler, more holistic way that puts me more so in control. I want to be able to have my doula because I know without a shadow of a doubt, I never want to have an epidural again, ever. I don't care how intense things get. I don't care if this baby comes out, you know, with a tilted head too, which makes things really, really difficult because that's what happened with Adelaide. And her head was tilted and it made things really difficult. My first baby I had no epidural, no problem. It was a beautiful, beautiful birth. And we just ran into so many issues with the hospital that we're at with our birth with Adelaide. It just, you know, they're really not set up for a holistic, unmedicated birth. So we're going to change practices. I think what I'm going to do is, you know, I would love a home birth. It's going to be incredibly difficult for me to find a practice that does a home birth that my insurance will pay for, because most birthing centers that are run by midwives actually do home births, and they don't have a doctor, a licensed physician on staff. And my insurance requires that any practice we use, if they do a home birth, that's great, but the practice we use has to have a licensed physician on staff. They don't mind if we use a midwife for the birth, like we had a midwife that delivered Tennyson, and I wanted a midwife to deliver Adelaide, but it didn't work out that way. But they have to have a licensed physician on staff. And a lot of birthing centers that do home births don't have licensed physicians on staff. They're run by midwives. So I'm gonna look around. My first thing is I'm going to hire and speak to a doula. I don't think I'm gonna be using the same one that I had with Tennyson, even though she was amazing. I think I'm going to be using one of my friends that I have since met. And she's had a beautiful home birth. She also had a beautiful birth in a birthing center. She and I have been in correspondence for years now, ever since we had our first babies, because we had them around the same time. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be using her, and I'm going to ask for some guidance from her on, you know, a really good practice that could possibly, you know, grant me a home birth. If not, we can go to a birthing center, and I'm cool with that too. But I know without a doubt, I do not want another epidural. this is not meant to offend anyone who enjoys epidurals. A lot of women really enjoy epidurals. I did not. I had, my first daughter completely naturally, and then I had a lot of complications and very few helpful resources to use when it came to having Adelaide here. And so I eventually got exhausted and asked for an epidural, and I regretted it. I so regretted it for so many reasons. I liked my unmedicated birth so much better. And I can make a video about that if you guys really want me to. Again, this is not meant to offend anyone who wants an epidural. I think it's a woman's choice. And if your body wants an epidural and your plan is to have an epidural, it's a nice, pretty smooth way to have a child. I will admit, it's a lot less work on both you and your birthing partner to have an epidural. But I personally really did not like the epidural. I hated not only the way it made me feel in the moment, but for days afterward. I was just almost narcoleptic. Like, I couldn't even keep my eyes open for 2 days afterward. And I felt so sedated and drugged. It's just too strong for me, guys. I didn't like it. Whereas with Tennyson, all those endorphins that you release and all that adrenaline you release during childbirth, I felt amazing. The second after I had her, I felt like I could run laps around the hospital. And I also had some postpartum depression with Adelaide. And I wonder even if that wasn't, due to the epidural. I may be reading too far into that, but I can just tell you, after my experience with an epidural, I never felt right. Not for months. I felt drained. I felt disconnected. I felt drugged. Yeah, I didn't like it. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us for this video. Please let me know if you are down for having these updates every week. And again, if you're someone who wants an epidural, please don't be offended by what I said. A lot of women love their epidurals. And I think that's great. I just personally didn't like it. It's not for me. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing these every week. I'm also gonna be doing the regular videos that we do, the day in the lives, the vlogs. I know you guys really love those as well. And then I'm gonna try to do 3 videos a week. We'll see how that goes, but I know without a doubt I'm gonna try to do this pregnancy update every week for you guys. So thanks for listening to me ramble. I hope all of you are well. If you're a new mom who's pregnant for the first time, congratulations to you. I'm very excited to go on this journey with you. And yeah, we will see what happens. I'm gonna show you the bump and then I'm gonna go. I will see you guys next time. Bye. Oh, look at that pretty baby. Bye bye. Can you say bye bye? Bye bye.